Hello, and welcome back to another video. This video did not turn out as planned. Neither did the projects that I'm making in this video turn out as planned. Okay, well, one of them did, but I just did make two dresses at the same time, which I don't think is that ambitious, honestly. I feel like there are people that can make a lot more than just two dresses at one time. But yeah, I gave myself a week to make two dresses, one for me and one for my mom, and I was very excited about them actually. But things did not go as planned, and my whole philosophy when it comes to most things that I do is fly by the seat of your pants, and wherever you end up being planted, that's where you can grow. And that works pretty well for me for the most part, and maybe that's not such a good thing because it's reinforcing this idea of just kind of going with the flow and playing it by ear, but that's the only way that I know how to do things, and so that's what I do. I didn't really have a plan for my dress because I used a pattern that I have previously used. And then when it came to my mom's dress, she picked a picture from online and I tried to pattern her dress after that. Whenever I'm making a dress for my mom, however, I don't know why, but it's always like 3 times as hard as it is making clothes for somebody else. Of course, making things for myself is pretty easy because I'm very used to my measurements and my size, and so I'm very comfortable making things for myself. And I've made things for other people and had minimal issues as well. But when it comes to my mom, somehow things just always happen that I didn't plan for. So we spent a lot more time in the mock-up phase. I made so many bodice block mock-ups until I got it to where it fit correctly. And then once I started with the dress, the fabric was not what I expected. It is a rayon and it is a knit and it is thick, and I just didn't account for the fact that my needles were not prepared to deal with that. And so I ended up having to buy a ballpoint needle. I bought 2 sets of ballpoint needles. One of them didn't work. The other set thankfully were able to work properly. And so that was like obstacle number 1. As I was cutting out the pattern for her dress, however, she wasn't even sure if she liked it, and neither was I, because the fabric just, I don't know, it looked better on the bolt in the store, and then when I brought it home and washed it and started cutting out pattern pieces, it started to look kind of cheap. But thankfully this was a trust the process moment, and it turned out okay in the end, and the fabric wasn't as big of an issue aesthetically, but working with it, absolute nightmare. I had to hand stitch some of the seams for blind hems because I don't have a blind hem foot or anything. And the needles just have such a hard time getting through the fabric. It's very, I don't know how to describe it, but it's very tough to get through. It's not even necessarily the thickest fabric I've ever encountered, but I think the rayon and the knit and the thick, all of those components together made this fabric a nightmare to work with. And something else that, if you've sewn at all in any capacity, you know that ironing your seams is huge when it comes to making things look less homemade and more like they are factory produced. And so with the interest of my things looking professional, I am very diligent about ironing my seams for the most part. This fabric, it's like it resists the iron. If I'm just like ironing out wrinkles on the front, that's fine. But when it comes to ironing seams, like getting creases, extremely difficult, which was a real issue because I had some inverted box pleats on the front and on the back, and in order for that to look right, you need to iron it down. I spent so much time ironing it. I steamed it. I did everything that I could to hopefully get some creases, and it took a while, and it wasn't a walk in the park, but thankfully the time paid off, and I didn't even get that crisp of a pleat, if I'm being honest with you, but we did get some creasing, and so the pleats did end up looking okay in the end. But whatever this fabric is, I never want to work with it again. It's good for some things, I'm sure, but for my everyday use, I just don't want to deal with it ever again. I'm gonna make sure and look, I don't know. I decided I'm just gonna be more diligent when it comes to picking fabric out, because my goodness, this fabric put me through the ringer and it was a real challenge to work with. And although I do like the outcome, I don't know, I feel like I could have gotten a nice outcome with some other fabric that was easier to deal with. So just my personal opinion on that. My dress, however, there was really no issues with my dress. I didn't have any issues. Of course, I've used this pattern before. It was just a different fabric, and I did change up the skirt a little bit. It was a bit more A-line, and the previous one that I made was a bit more straight and then flared at the bottom. And so I didn't have any trouble with my dress because I've made it before, and so that was easy. I've had this fabric for a really long time, just sort of sitting at the bottom of my fabric stash, and so I was really excited to finally get to use it for something. And both of the dresses turned out great. Of course, my mom's dress doesn't look as good on my dress form because my dress form is for a size 4, because I'm a size 4 and that dress is not a size 4. So I kind of had to like clamp it in the back and try to pin it in certain places for it to look okay. It still didn't end up looking as good as it did when she was wearing it. She looked so pretty in that dress, but on the mannequin it looks kind of like a sad excuse. Anyhow, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to tune in when I start uploading more consistently again. Thank you for watching. Keep it classy, and I will see you next time.